Let's kick off this week for Hybrid Learning Week talking about managing small groups in virtual learning environments. And a lot of the strategies shared are also going to be applicable to small groups in person or in a blended environment. First and foremost, preloading the routines and expectations, making sure that students know what's expected during breakouts. We can't just assume that students know how to collaborate productively in these spaces. We have to model it and scaffold it. So some things to try: share Google Slides or a doc with instructions, giving editing privileges to students. You could assign one slide or a section of the slides per group so that students can report out during that time. And if you view those slides in grid view, you'll be able to keep an eye on the entire deck at one time. You can also use Jamboard and the various frames available for documentation of learning. Before you send students into their breakout rooms, it is a good strategy to ask clarifying questions before the releasing of the students. That way you can address anything and they won't have to signal your attention many times during the small group. There is a free template linked below for a breakout room note taker Google slide deck. The other things students should understand are the roles that the team members should assume while they are in these spaces. Now, depending on the developmental level of your students, you might have simpler tasks for each student, but in some way, shape, or form, you can have student leaders, note takers, you can have reporters and timekeepers who will keep everyone on task. You could also have breakout room roles assigned based on the first person in the room. That works well for some older students. And just making some common language around roles and expectations of the students during the small group time. Common questions. How are small groups going to keep track of the time? Well, sometimes you have a built-in ability in Google Meet breakout rooms. You have timers. Sometimes you'll use a YouTube video or an online timer to keep them there. And just communicating really clearly, we will be in small groups for the next 15 minutes and the time that will end is 10:25 and we'll see you back then. Just being really upfront about that. And knowing how the students will stay in touch with you during breakout time. If you are circulating and doing some instruction in the mini groups, or if you are working one-on-one with the student while there are groups, how are they going to get in touch with you? And is that something that's permitted depending on the task? Should they take notes and bring you their questions afterwards? Is there an open chat where they can reach out or use the ask for help button in Zoom? So just knowing those procedures as well. In addition to, what should the students do when they're finished? Should they return to the main room? Is there additional work to do? Do they have free time? What is it that they should do when the work is done? For the roles of the teacher during small group time, please communicate clearly, what the purpose of the breakout room is. Make sure everyone has their materials and review the instructions. If you are able to, it is worthwhile to pop in and out of the groups, making sure things are going well, and then being available for a chat or via email for assistance. You may consider using polls or sending reminders or messages in Zoom. And during the small group time, a lot of teachers do like to meet and provide direct instruction or support or enrichment for students during that time. So it all depends on the tasks and the ultimate purpose of running small groups. When you're checking in, like we said, it helps to have a common space where students are documenting their learning or performing their tasks. Might be something interactive like a Pear Deck or Nearpod. Could be shared Google Slides. Might be a common whiteboard space. So just think about how you can have students stay accountable for their work during small group time. And when we're thinking about learning activities and protocols that work really well, we can, again, tie everything back to the purpose. Why are we doing this? We're not meeting in small groups for the fun of it. There is a definite purpose. Those purposes could be, we want to have the time as the teacher to meet with targeted groups of students. We want students to have time together to peer conference or do partner work, or we want them to be able to have time to work collaboratively on a project. Or we might want to set up different environments for learning that meet students' preferential conditions. For example, we might want to set up a small group for students who want to team up, or a small group for students who want to work independently. And in the slides, you'll be able to find examples of this type of setup where students are choosing the room, the breakout room, based on their preferred learning preferences. They want to work in a quiet space, they want teacher support. And so these are some examples of how you can send students into rooms based on their learning preferences. These are all examples that you can use, make copies of, and share in your own spaces. When it comes to interactions of the students, strategies and protocols that work really well, thinking about how some of our successful strategies in person can be transitioned into digital spaces. So there are a lot of resources on this slide. The big list of class discussion strategies from Jennifer Gonzalez, Project Zero out of Harvard GSE, the Thinking Routine Toolbox, basically asking you to identify what your end goal is. Is it for introducing new ideas? Well, then check out these protocols. Is it for perspective taking? Check out these protocols. All of these resources will help you design the group time to be most productive and meaningful for your students and to maximize engagement in those spaces. So check out those resources. Others include the peeling back the layers, using simple graphic organizers, taking some of those strategies like 3-2-1 into our digital spaces, using Jamboard for small group reading instruction. That is a specific highlight here that we've offered through these teachers that have shared generously, and just making sure that the purpose and the intent is clear. So we hope that what you will do next is head to the full workshop that we have available on our Flex on Demand, Managing Small Groups in Virtual Environments. And this is available in all the resource slides. So what we hope you will do next is head to our Flex Professional Learning website, which is where you are now. So if you are intrigued and would like to learn more, on our Flex on Demand page, we actually have a full workshop all about managing small groups and virtual learning. We go more in depth into the topics that you just learned about, and you can view all of our resource slides and the video here. Thanks for joining us.